Okay guys, so we are almost done with chapter 5. I know it's a lengthy one, has a lot of very important information. So let's talk about 4 major network operating systems: Windows Server, Linux, Unix, Apache Web Server, and Novell. That's 5, so forgive me for that. Okay, so this is just a little table to help you learn about these network operating systems, okay? You'll hear them referred to as NOS, okay? A network operating system is a multi-user operating system that controls the software and hardware that's running on a network. The NOS allows multiple computers, also called clients, to communicate with the server and each other to share resources, run applications, and to send messages. The NOS provides services such as file and print services, communication services, and internet and email services. The modern network operating systems include Windows Server, Linux, Unix, Apache Web Server, and Novell. And a helpful hint, Apache Web Server is the most widely used NOS found on web servers. Okay, so if you're listening to this lecture, you will now just have found an answer to one of your homework questions. So, centralized resources and security make a client-server network pretty much indispensable in a business setting. Okay. Client-server networks, we could have a lecture just on client-server networks, okay? But basically, when you, the user, okay, you are the client, when you log into one of these network operating systems, you gain access to centralized services like printers, file storage, things like that. Okay. So an example of that would be here at school. You come to campus, you log into a campus machine, and now you have access to everything the NMHU network has to offer. Whereas if you can't log in, you don't get to use those services, right? Okay. A peer-to-peer network doesn't have centralized services, okay? Files and services are shared, but they're not centralized the way they are, like, let me go back here a little bit, like in this. Okay, so this would be one of your, like a client-server network. Everything is centralized here, and so everybody can access it from, as long as they're logged into to the network operating system, okay? Sorry. So peer-to-peer network is just like it says, peer-to-peer. You don't have this big centralized server, giving these services to everyone on this network. Okay, you can share files still, you can share printers, whatever, but it's not as large, basically. This is what you're going to find in your home network, okay? Let's see. Okay, now I'm excited. Let's talk about the second piece of system software, okay? We have talked a whole lot about operating systems. So now let's talk about utility software. This is the second part of system software. Okay? Utility programs are these little small applications that perform special functions. They come in 3 flavors, all right? Those that are included with the OS. So an example of that would be like System Restore. Then there's those that are sold as standalone programs, stuff like antivirus software. And then the third flavor are those that are offered as freeware. So like anti-malware software, like Malwarebytes, okay? Stuff like that. It's freeware. Those are our 3 different flavors. Incorporated into the OS, standalone utility programs, or freeware. All right. The basic utilities designed to manage and tune the computer hardware are incorporated into the OS. So these come with your operating system. The standalone utility programs typically offer more features or an easier user interface. And these are used for like backup, security, diagnostic, or recovery functions. For some Windows programs, like Task Manager and Resource Monitor, there's not a good standalone alternative, okay? I love Task Manager, Resource Monitor. Those are great programs. So, different types of utility programs. Display utilities, okay? You can personalize your start screen and the lock screen to suit your tastes. You probably already know that, okay? Use the colors of your windows. You don't just have to go with regular old Microsoft Blue. You can pick a different color. You can pick different fonts. You can change the display. That's why they're called display utilities. If you don't like the options that you have, then there's downloadable options as well. Okay. Programs and features utility. When you download Windows apps from the Windows Store, they automatically install on your computer. If you install like non-Windows programs, the program usually automatically runs something called a wizard. Okay, so there's this little guy there working inside your computer. Just kidding. Okay, but you see this, the wizard will now install your software, and basically what it does is the wizard walks you through the installation process. Okay, you press next, it tells you what's happening, gives you different options, and there you go. Okay, so that is another example of a utility program. File compression utilities. These make large files more compact, making it easier and faster to email large attachments, upload them to the web, or to save them. Okay. Windows has a built-in file compression utility that takes out redundancies to reduce the size. You can also obtain several standalone freeware and shareware programs to compress your files. Okay, I use WinRAR, that's WinRAR, and it's great. And I've been using it for like a long time, like 10 years. It always tells me that my free trial has expired, but yet it keeps on going. So here's a little plug for WinRAR. Thank you. Okay. Sorry. Most compression programs, what they do is they look for repeated patterns of letters and replace them with a shorter placeholder. So the patterns in the placeholder are cataloged and then stored in a separate file called the dictionary. And then, in order to restore the file to its original state, you will have to decompress the file. Okay. So that's file compression utilities. Disk utility software. Hard disk drives today are really large, like not physically speaking, I'm talking about storage size. And so they can hold a ton of information. Okay, so it's important to keep your disks healthy, to keep your system running efficiently, and to protect your files. When a disk is first formatted to hold files, a set of concentric circles called tracks are created. Okay, so this is showing you these concentric circles, okay? That's called a track. Then the disk is divided up into different sections, just sort of like pie or a pizza. Okay, these are called sectors. So each little piece is called a sector. And files are then stored in blocks of these sectors called clusters. Okay, so you got to keep these disks healthy. Sometimes files sort of move around, or a little piece ends up in the wrong space. Okay, so that's when you run like your disk defrag, and that will take care of that for you. Okay. More disk utility software. All right. Windows includes disk utilities to help maintain your computer. So disk checking utilities monitor the health of the file system on a disk. Files that are fragmented or broken into pieces and stored in non-adjacent or non-contiguous clusters on the disk. This is known as file fragmentation. Okay, so what the Optimized Drives tool does is it arranges those fragmented files to declutter and to improve efficiency. Okay, and then my favorite, Disk Cleanup, looks for files that can be safely deleted to free up disk space. So I love disk cleanup. Okay, so this is a picture for Windows 8, but it doesn't matter. It's the same thing as Windows 10 and whatever version we are headed into within the month. So let's talk about it. Okay. Basically what it does, you can do a search for disk cleanup, and it's going to scan your machine. Okay. And once it's done, it's going to tell you you can use disk cleanup to free up to whatever amount of disk space on your hard drive. Okay. Total space possible to be freed. So 220 megs, that's fine. But sometimes you'll get like 2 gigs worth of stuff you can delete, and it makes you feel really excited and happy. Or at least it does for me. I love to clean stuff off of my machine. Alright, so anyway, it gives you this little box right here, and it's telling you the files to delete. It's going to automatically check some of these files for you. It's like, don't worry, there's not going to be any issues if you delete this stuff. Okay, that's going to be your temporary internet files. If you haven't cleaned out your temporary internet files, those could be taking up a huge amount of space. Okay, any offline web pages, those are also going to be cleaned out. If you don't empty your recycle bin, it's going to throw that in there. Okay, and then you can scroll down and you can see different stuff. Okay, so setup log files, temporary files, etc., etc. And if you're nervous, you're like, I don't even know what that means, you can actually click on it and it'll highlight it blue just like this one. It'll tell you right here the description of those files, so you'll know what are you deleting. And just in case you're wondering, every time I run this, I check every single thing and press OK, and so far so good, guys. So far so good. All right. So disk cleanup, one of my favorite utilities. If I ask you in the midterm to list utilities, please list disk cleanup. All right, so that brings us to Task Manager. Pretty much probably everybody has used Task Manager if you run Windows. You're like, what the heck is wrong with my computer? Maybe Firefox won't quit. Hey, you open up Task Manager. Shortcut on the keyboard would be Control-Shift-Escape. Brings you directly to the Task Manager. And then you can sort of force stuff to shut down if it's messing up your machine. So if Firefox is not responding, it'll tell you right here, not responding. Just click on it, highlight it, end task, and it's going to force it. It's going to kill it. Okay. Ease of Access Center. I know this looks weird. I couldn't get it to look quite perfect, but we can read it, right? Your Ease of Access Center is a centralized location for assistive technology and tools to adjust the accessibility settings that we talked about before. Okay. In the Ease of Access Center, which you can get to from the control panel, you can find the tools to help users with disabilities. So if you're not sure where to start or what settings might help, there's a questionnaire that asks you about routine tasks and provides this personalized recommendation for settings that will allow you to better use your computer. Okay. Narrator, high contrast, on-screen keyboard, magnifier. So all kinds of cool assistive technology. And if you're like, how come we only talked about Windows utility? It's because Windows has a lot more than Mac does, because Mac is much more self-sufficient. Okay, Mac OS comes with Disk Utility, which is accessible from the Utilities folder in the launcher. Okay. You can use this utility to get information about the disks on your computer and to verify and repair a disk with which you are having any trouble. Macs rarely need to have a hard drive defragmented due to system safeguards that are in place in Mac OS. So beautiful, right? Additionally, a Mac does not need a disk cleanup utility because it has it set up to do this daily, weekly, and monthly, and this all runs automatically. So thank you, Apple. And finally, just real quick, this is security software, also utility software. You have firewalls, antivirus programs, anti-spyware software. Firewalls block unauthorized access to your computer. Antivirus programs protect against viruses, Trojan horses, worms, and spyware. Anti-spyware prevents adware and spyware infections. And then malware is not security software, but it's a general term for any software that's designed to be harmful or malicious, stuff that's going to usually get caught if you're running these types of programs. So that is the end of Chapter 5. I'll see you for Chapter 6.